Hey guys, this is Tech Howdy. I welcome you to another video tutorial where we are creating this CMS application using Angular 10 and ASP.NET Core 3. In the last video tutorial, we implemented version control with Microsoft Azure repos. I showed you how to create an account with Microsoft Azure repos and then send your or push your code into that repository that you created on Microsoft Azure. Now in this video tutorial, what I will be teaching you guys is how to create and implement logging in your application. Logging plays a very important role in every application that we build, and if there are any errors while loading the application or while running the application or while compiling the application, we can catch those errors in the form of exceptions and log them in log files, and as a developer it will become very easy for us then to debug these errors. So to implement logging in our application, we are going to make use of a logging package or logging library called as Serilog. There are lots of logging libraries that are available. Most of them are very popular, like Serilog is one of them. Then we have nlog. We also have certain library called as log4net. Depending on your choice, you can implement these libraries in your application, but for this project we will be using Serilog as our primary logging package. But before installing Serilog in our project, we will create a separate logging service that can be consumed inside this project, so that we can also use the logging services in other projects as well. As we progress, we will be creating multiple sub projects that will be consumed in this main project, and therefore the logging project can then be consumed in all these projects. So the first thing that I would do is go ahead, right click and add a new project. I will go to the option Web and Console, select Library, and then choose Class Library, which says Create a .NET Core Class Library Project. Hit Next. I'll name this library or this library project as Logging Service, and I'll browse to the desktop where I have my main project, not the project which contains the client app. Instead, I will be adding this project to my main folder. So now I will select that folder and then click open, and you should have it something like this. So now when I have this project in this folder, I'm going to create it. As you can see, now we have two different projects. If I go back to my desktop, open this folder, I should have CMS Core NG and logging, two separate folders. These are basically two separate projects. Let's close this. Now let's go back to our solution. The next thing that I would want to do in my main project is reference this new project that I created. So to add the reference, I'll go to the dependencies of my main project, right click on it and add reference. Here I will select this logging service, selected references, and click OK. Now I have the project logging service referenced in my main project. So any classes or any code that I have here in this logging service, I can access it now in my main project because I have referenced it. So now in my logging service, what I need to do is I don't need this default class that is created. So let me get rid of it. Let's go ahead and now let's build our project to make sure that everything is working fine and our build is successful. Now to install Serilog, we need to install certain packages. We would need about 5 packages that we need to install from NUGET. So let's right click on this logging service and then go to add and then NUGET packages. In the NUGET package, I will search for Serilog. So what packages I would need? I would need Serilog.Sinks.File to write the logs into a file. I need Serilog.Sinks.Console so that we can see the logs on the console. We would need Serilog.Settings.Configuration to configure our log. Then we would also need Serilog.AspNetCore because we have an AspNetCore application, and one more library that we would need is to print this log asynchronously, which is Serilog.Sinks.Async. So now we have in total 5 packages that we have selected. I will provide the names of these packages in the video description, and then you can search them on NUGET package manager and install them. So now what I'm going to do is just click add packages. While adding these packages, I have to accept certain licenses and terms and conditions because these packages depend on certain other packages which also would be installed. So I'll accept these terms and conditions. And now as you can see that the package manager is going to install these packages. You will see this pop-up coming up multiple times because we are adding 5 packages. So there will be certain pop-ups that will ask you to accept the terms and conditions. So all 5 packages were successfully added. We can expand the dependencies folder and then go to NuGet, expand it, and you will see all these 5 packages here. So that's all for the packages that we require. Now let's create a custom formatter, text formatter, which we can use to format our logs in files. So to do that, to add a custom formatter which can format our logs, we are going to create a class. And I'll call this class as custom text formatter. Now Serilog comes with its own formatters where you can print the logs in compact JSON format or in some other formats. If you go back to NuGet packages and you can search for something like compact JSON, this can be used to format the log files in compact JSON form. There are lots of packages also available from Serilog that can be used to print your logs in an appropriate format that you require. So if you, for example, if I choose this Serilog formatting compact and install this package, I can use this library classes to print the log files in a very compact format. For this project, I'm not going to use that, but if you want to give it a try, you can. We will be creating a custom text formatter to print the logs how we want them to be shown on our log files. So we don't need a constructor in this class. Now for this class, we need to make sure that this class extends from iText formatter. So let's do that. Let's add the reference. When you hover over this squiggly line, it will show you a small drop down kind of thing. Just click on it and then you should see it will ask you to add the using Serilog formatting statement. I will do that, and once added, I will see that this turns blue, which means we have the class imported. Now the next thing we need to do is implement the interface members. So let's do that, implement the interface. And here inside the interface, which contains the format method, we need to specify how we need the files to be formatted or how we need to actually print the logs on the log file. So I've already created a format which I'm going to use in this project. So if I receive any logs which are logs other than information, it can be debug, it can be error, it can be warning, so I can go ahead and print them in the log file. If it's just information, I will not print it. But if you want to print everything, even information, then you can remove this condition and just print everything. So this is how the format of the logs would look when they are printed in the log file. We will have the log event timestamp, the level, which can be error, debug, warning. We'll also have the log properties if there are any, and we will have the exception details printed in our log file. So we have access to the exception details through the log event object by calling the .exception property. Similarly, we will have access to the timestamp and the level of the log. So Now we have created the custom formatter. We can close this file and we can rebuild our project to make sure everything is building fine and we don't have any errors. So build was successful. Now the next step that we have to perform is to consume this logging service in this project and start printing the logs. And to do that, we need to first go to the program.cs file. And why we are in the program.cs file? Because this is the entry point of our application. When this application will run, when you run this application, the first thing that will be called is the program class and the main method. Therefore, that becomes the entry point of your application. And at the entry point itself, we want to make sure that if there are any errors in your application, we catch them and we log them in the file. So we are going to implement the logging for loading as well as implement logging for anything in our applications like calling API and so on. But at this moment, let's just focus on logs files to be created, where if there are any errors, print them in those log files while the application is starting or loading. And to do that, we have to first go ahead and create a scope here in this class or in this method. So what I'm going to do here is first create a variable, call it host, and assign create host builder dot build method to that object, and I will host dot run instead of calling this method directly. So before calling the host.run method, I am going to create a scope and print a test log in our test file. So by doing that, what is going to happen? We can check if our logging is working fine so that we can then use it in our project. So now when we are printing this information in log files, I also need to print some other information other than what I am printing on this custom text formatter. Here I'm just printing the exception, the stack trace, and so on. But when I deploy this project on my server, I also need to know the certain information like the name of the server or the computer machine, the operating system, the process ID. If in case a task or a process is stuck because of this error, then I can go ahead and kill that task using Task Manager. If I have the process ID, it becomes very easy to do that. So I need to add these properties inside that log file along with all the other details like exception details, stack trace, etc. So to do that, first thing I will do is using this web builder object here, I will call the use Serilog method. Now we are going to see a squiggly red line because we have not yet imported the Serilog library here in this class. So let's add the using statement, and here inside this use Serilog method, what we would need is certain objects like the hosting context, and we will also need the logging configuration. When we have this, using the logging configuration, I'm going to create or use the .enrich method, which is the enrich property or the enrich method that I have from Serilog, and add certain properties that I need to be printed in my log file. To save time, I have fast forwarded the code that I was adding, typing the code. So here you can see I have already added this code now using the logging configuration.enrich method, calling the .form log context. I need the form log from log context. So this is information about the method or the class or the log context. Then we also have added the application name to be printed. I can call this CMS_app or just the name of my application, which is core_ng. For the environment name, I need the environment name also to be printed. So make sure if you want this information in your log file, you can add these properties. If you don't want this information to be printed in your log file, you don't have to add these properties. If you don't want the OS version or the process ID and so on. So to get access to environment, you need to provide the references to system using system And for process, you need to add the import statement for using system.diagnostic. And here, when we are writing this information to the file, we need to also tell Serilog that use the custom text formatter that we created instead of Serilog's own compact formatter. So we are using logging service statement over here referenced to reference this custom text formatter, and then we have printing this to the file. So I am using path.directory separator character instead of forward or backslash because I don't know which operating system as of now I'm going to deploy this project on. Can be Linux, can be Windows. So therefore, based on the operating system, the separator character will be automatically configured using this path.directory separator character method. So, and the last parameter that you're going to supply is going to be the name of your file, which is going to be the current date's timestamp, and the format would be .txt. You can change it to .json if you need that, but since we are using custom text formatter, we have placed it as .txt, which is a text format. So this should be it for the settings that I need to add certain more properties to my log file. Next, in order to print the logs, I need to do one more thing, which is create a scope so that I can consume this Serilog service. So directly I wouldn't have access to it in the static method, so I need to create a scope. So let's do that. To create a scope, I'm going to use the using statement over here and say I'll create an object called a scope, and using the host object that I have over here, I have access to these services, and then I'm going to create a scope using Microsoft extensions.dependency injection. So reference this in your file. So you should have it here. And now inside the using methods body, I'm going to create a sample error that I'm going to print in the log file. If we don't have any errors, there will be nothing in your log file. So I'm creating an error just to show you guys how the log file will look when the errors are printed. So here I am going to add this try catch block, which will just try attempt to divide 100 by 0 and then throw an exception, and I'm going to print this exception in my log file. Now to print it in your log file, all you have to do is call the log method from Serilog. So log.error will print an error, provide the message that you want to print and all the other details like this. So using interpolation. So now the next thing that we want to do is make sure that this project builds fine, there are no errors. So let's save this file and then build our solution or a project and make sure that there's no errors. So the build was successful. Now the next thing that I want to do is go ahead and run this project. While I run this project, as we have referenced the path to be the folder to be called logs, you should see a log folder being created inside your project. So let's run this project now. And as you see, the log folder is created, and we also have a log file. The name of the log file is load underscore error underscore the timestamp. That's the current date timestamp. If I open this file, I'll have errors printed on this file. As you can see, the format of these errors is the format that we have specified in the custom text formatter. So the application is loaded. Let me minimize this. So the custom text formatter is using this format where we are printing the timestamp and the log level. So it's the timestamp, the log level, and the other information that we added from the program class, which is the machine name, the OS version, process ID, and so on, which was implemented here using the web builder. So that information also has been now transferred to the log file using the enrich method or the property from logging configuration. And now we have all the information here. So anytime if there are any errors, we can find these errors in our application, and we can then debug them. So now, as you can see, there were some errors which were related to the ASP.NET Core Sparse services because these services were not available, and it's very common now in Angular 9 and Angular 10 to see these errors. So certain times you will see a timeout exception error when you try to run the application in Angular 10, and to fix that, all you have to do is go to your client app, go to package.json. Here in ngserve, I'm just going to type in echo loading and then do ngserve instead of ngserve directly. So what I am going to also do is go ahead and delete this log folder so it can be created again, and make sure that there are no errors in the log file. So the log folder is created again, waiting for the application to load. So the application is loaded. No, let's check the log file, and we don't have multiple errors now related to sparse services. As you can see, there is no errors related to sparse services. Now only error that we see is the attempted to be divided by 0. That's the error that we are intentionally printing on our file just to make sure how the log file looks, which is in the program.cs file over here. So that's how we implement logging in our application. And if you have any questions, use the comment section. I'll be happy to answer them. Make sure you import all the required references. I will provide the name of these packages in the description. I'll also push this code to our existing DevOps repository that I created. The link for the repo will be in the video description. And please like and subscribe our channel, Tech Howdy. Thank you for watching.